Number 10. Spidey tracking. Cindy Moon has a pretty intense connection with Peter Parker. Cindy is a superhero we know as Silk, who happens to be a spider-themed hero herself, who got her powers from a radioactive spider bite as well. The same spider, in fact, as the one who gave Spider-Man his powers. Because of this, they have an unspoken connection which allows Cindy to be able to track Peter to the point that he could be almost anywhere in the multiverse and she'd be able to find him. Granted, this power really only works with the two heroes because they're so closely connected to one another. Still, I didn't even know that was a power that Silk had. I learned that too when I was writing this list. So, yay. Number 9. Perfect balance. If you think you know what great balance is, you probably don't. At least not at the same level of great balance for someone as agile as Spider-Man. For Spider-Man, his ability to balance is insane. This is because Spider-Man has an enhanced equilibrium, and what's even more crazy is in the alternate reality of the MC2 line known as Earth 982, Peter is actually not alone. In fact, in that reality, he's even surpassed by another spider-themed hero, his daughter, Mayday Parker, Spider-Girl, who later becomes known as Spider-Woman. May's equilibrium is even better than her dad's in this universe, meaning that she is more agile and has an even better sense of balance. Which is pretty crazy because Peter can already balance on like pretty much anything on just like the tip of a finger or a toe and do so in almost any position. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn about more unknown or more obscure spider powers, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. There's lots out there. There's lots of weird, cool Spider-Man powers.
Coming in at number 8, we have Wolverine's perfect night vision. As I mentioned earlier, Wolverine is well known for his more animalistic traits, such as his hearing and sense of smell when it comes to being able to hunt down his enemies. But that doesn't mean his eyesight is weak by any means. Although it's more commonly known as an ability of his arch-rival Sabretooth, Wolverine has absolutely perfect night vision, meaning he can see better than most humans can during the day while it's pitch dark outside. Might just be a personal preference, but I really wouldn't want to encounter Wolverine in a dark room. Coming in at number 7, we have Wolverine's memory suppression. That's right, even though it's been a major story point throughout decades of X-Men comics, and particularly the live-action films, that Wolverine's got some amnesia issues, it turns out that this character trait is more of a superpower than just a traumatic backstory. While I'm not sure if the science quite works out on this, apparently all of the holes in Wolverine's backstory aren't the result of an enemy's memory wipe, but rather from Wolverine's healing ability building up scar tissue within the trauma center of Wolverine's brain. Without it, Wolverine's long lifespan and all of the horrors that he's endured over the years would be too much for even a mutant brain to handle, and thus, the amnesia is actually a safety feature from Wolverine's own mutation. Definitely an interesting take on his healing abilities, even if Wolverine probably wishes that his memory was a bit more stable than it has been in the past. Coming in at number 6, we've got another side effect of Wolverine's healing, and that's his relative immunity to telepaths and psychic attacks. All of that scar tissue building up in Wolverine's head over the decades isn't just for blocking out unpleasant memories. In fact, it was revealed that this is the reason that so many villains have had issues controlling Wolverine with telepathic powers in the past. Wolverine's healing ability actually forces out the mental forces attempting to break into his mind, thus letting Wolverine control his own destiny and always being sure that he's in charge of his own body. Coming in at number 5, we have nuclear survival. When Wolverine was first introduced in the comics, his healing ability was just a quirk that made him a more intimidating warrior. Any cuts or bruises would just quickly become a non-issue to him. But as time went on and Wolverine became a more popular character, his healing abilities as a mutant became one of his most defining features, even more so than his iconic claws. Wolverine's healing abilities combined with his indestructible skeleton have been shown to be so great over the years that he's even been able to withstand the full force of a nuclear bomb. Look, comics in the 90s were a little bit over the top, okay? Coming in at number 4, we have Wolverine's animal empathy, a power that was particularly useful during the period of time where Wolverine abandoned his humanity and lived in the woods. While not going so far as to allow him to literally talk to animals, Wolverine is still able to sense and understand the emotions of any animal in front of him, alongside allowing them to understand his emotions as well, getting rid of any danger of fear or miscommunication between him and the usually deadly species he encounters, such as wolves. With abilities such as these, it's not too hard to wonder if Wolverine sometimes can be more beast than man.
Number 3. Magic. At least for a time in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, Peter had this one. For a short time, but it happened. He actually was given the Eye of Agamotto by Doctor Strange for a time and ended up possessing temporarily all the powers of the Sorcerer Supreme. In the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, Peter also kind of trains with Doctor Strange, or at least hangs out with him, and he gets some immunity to magic from his time spent with the famed sorcerer. Granted, the magic that Peter has in this series is temporary, but it should also be noted that Spider-Man's origin was actually tweaked in the decade leading up to the Spider-Verse event in the comics, making him actually more mystical just as a character in the main continuity of 616. We learned that Spider-Man's origins weren't only based in the realm of science, but that the bite that he suffered from that radioactive spider was also somewhat fated, and was considered a gift from the spider, or more specifically the Other, which is kind of the spider, the great spider being that Spider-Man is attached to, turning Spider-Man into one of many spider totems throughout the Marvel Universe. Totems are basically figures throughout the Marvel Universe who are connected in a supernatural way to the spirit of an animal. In Spider Totem's case, it's spiders. Number 2. Venom Punch. Okay, so maybe you know about Jessica Drew's Venom Blast, but did you know that Spider-Man is also capable of emitting bioelectricity powers himself? Miles Morales' Spider-Man also possesses the power to channel his excess bioelectricity into blasts and shocking beams of concussive energy, but he also has another unique power he can pull off using his extra stores of bioelectricity. That would be his Venom Punch. Miles the Spider-Man can actually channel his bioelectricity into his punches, basically supercharging them. So not only are you feeling the pain of that super strong punch, because he's also got super strength, but also the pain from electric fists if you get hit by him. Honestly, Miles is probably one of the wildest power sets of all the Spider folks around. He's got lots of cool unique powers and is like crazy OP. Just another reason to love Miles Morales. Number 1. Pheromone powers. Jessica Drew actually possesses these powers, although we might sometimes forget about them. They don't come up very often, and I think that's kind of because Jessica likes to use them sparingly. They are kind of weird powers. Also, it's hard to write powers like these without the issue of consent coming up. They do kind of inherently seem to lend better to villains than heroes because of that. However, one of my favorite moments when it comes to Jessica Drew's, aka Spider-Woman's, use of these powers is when she partnered with the Hulk and used them to help control and calm him, helping to combat his tendency to rage and hone that in. She proved that she could help take control of the Hulk by influencing him to make her a sandwich, which is pretty harmless and just kind of funny. Also, Jessica kind of shot herself in the foot with that one because the Hulk making a sandwich it's gonna be a bit of a mess of a sandwich. But he tried, he did his best. It was still a good sandwich, Hulk. I give it a thumbs up.
Number 10. Hulk 2099. This is the only Hulk on this list that is not a Bruce Banner. No, this version of the Hulk is a guy named John Eisenhart. He was a corporate lawyer for big movie studios who went to manipulate a group called the Knights of Banner, who were a cult-like group of warriors who followed the ideologies of Bruce Banner. John was going to gain the rights for their name in order to make a movie about them, all while giving them nothing in return. He turns them into this corporation called Sweet Dreams, thinking they'll be brought in peacefully, but it doesn't go that way. The only Knight of Banner who survives, a kid, goes to a gamma machine, but John saves the kid, pushing him out of the way and being blasted with gamma radiation. John can turn into the Hulk whenever he wants. He has a super strong prehensile tongue, and he is much more beast-like with massive claws. He is just as powerful as the regular Hulk, but unfortunately, his comics were not popular enough to last more than 12 issues. maybe he'll get a resurgence, I don't know. And at number 9, it's Age of Apocalypse Hulk, a world where the megalomaniacal apocalypse rose to power and mutants rule mercilessly while humans are treated like cattle. This version of Bruce Banner originally betrayed mankind, but after his experiments turned him into the Hulk, he fought for humans once again. This version of the Hulk starts off as the Grey Hulk, but is referred to as Thing until he saves Tony Stark, Gwen Stacy, and Victor Von Doom from a gamma nuke that he created that inadvertently goes off, forcing his transformation from Grey to Green Hulk. Now this guy is pretty much an equal to his normal 616 self, but once Weapon X becomes the ruler of this Earth, this Hulk is able to go toe to toe with him, shrugging off attacks and giving a hell of a fight for the crazy powerful mutant.
Number 8. Radiation Resistance. It turns out that Spider-Man, having been bit by a radioactive spider, actually gained a semi-immunity to radiation poisoning. Radiation of course can still hurt Spider-Man, but it takes a lot of it to do any significant damage to him. In other words, if you've ever played Fallout and taken some Rad X before heading into a super irradiated area, that's kinda like what we're talking about here. Instead of radiation killing Spider-Man, it usually just leaves him feeling weak. Of course, like anything, if he is exposed to too much radiation, it can do damage and even potentially kill him. So he's not completely immune to it, just not as sensitive as many standard humans are. We're very sensitive to radiation, so take that Rad X and, I don't know, get bit by a radioactive spider, I guess, if you want some protection from it. Or just, you know, avoid it. That's a good way to live life. Avoid radiation. Number 7. Spider Whisperer. One version of Spider-Man can even communicate with spiders, in a way. And okay, maybe not a Spider-Man specifically. For this point, we're focusing on Kane Parker, clone of Peter Parker, initially known for his brooding, violent and villainous ways, and long dramatic hair. Now, however, Kane is a hero in the comics who still is kinda broody, but not as broody as he was originally. During his time as Scarlet Spider, he made an appearance in the 2014 New Warriors series. Here, in issue number 3, we get to see that Kane has a unique spider-based power. That is, he can communicate with spiders. Now, while he can't directly command them to do his bidding, Kane's power does give him a sort of empathic connection to the spiders around him. Still, pretty neat, and honestly seems like a power that should be a thing for all spider folks, even though it is a surprisingly rare one in the realm of the Spider-Man multiverse. Like, I'm surprised that not every spider person can communicate with spiders. Just seems logical, and yet. Number 6. Organic Webbing. Oddly enough, this one might be a power that you already thought you knew about, but in most cases, it's actually not a thing. A lot of people think it's a thing when it's not, and then sometimes it weirdly is. I hope that makes sense. Spider-Man's web shooters are actually an invention that Peter Parker, or usually any other Spider Totem of the Week, invented for their own use. Some fans think that this webbing is a part of Spider-Man's power set, but it's standardly a part of his equipment kit. However, this isn't always the case, and there have been a few times in the comics where the webbing for our hero has actually been organic, literally coming out from his own wrists, which is really weird and kinda icky, and not really a thing that we needed, but you know, we got it anyways. Silk is another spider-themed hero which has also had this power set of organic webbing, although in a bit of a cooler vein, at least in my opinion, and in terms of her character design. She also uses her webbing to create her suits at times when she has to jump into action unexpectedly. This gives Silk not only a pretty unique power, but also an unique look too. Number 5. Wicked Smart. I just like saying wicked smart. Or just wicked as an adverb, really. Wicked is a cool adverb. I really love adverbs. Of course, as I said earlier, the reason why people sometimes make the assumption that Peter's webs are always organic when they are only sporadically organic is because they forget just how smart he is. Yes, Peter is sweet, kind, and sometimes teeters on the edge of falling completely apart, but there is more to him than all of that. He doesn't only have a good heart, but he also has a great brain. Hence how he was able to create his own web shooters to begin with, and also hence his love of academics and science. Peter isn't just your average smarty either in the Marvel Universe, no siree. He has been considered one of the great intellectual minds, rubbing elbows with the likes of Reed Richards, Iron Man, Black Panther, and Bruce Banner. Number 4. Venom Blast. Venom Blast is an iconic power that fans of Spider-Man might not be familiar with, but fans of Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman likely will be. Venom Blasts don't actually involve venom either, so the name for this power is kind of a misnomer. However, that didn't stop Spider-Woman from the 1970s cartoon shouting out the name of this power every time she used it. Venom Blast! It's like the louder you shout it, the more powerful it is. The Venom Blast power is actually electrical in nature. Jessica has the ability to produce excess bioelectricity which she can then channel into a blast, allowing her to shock, stun, or even kill her opponents. In fact, this is also a power that Jess has had to practice with and hone over the years so she can avoid killing people with it because it is just that powerful. I feel like that's actually a lot of Jessica Drew's powers. She's like, I have to hone this because it's just too crazy. Practice is important, especially if you have superpowers.
Number 3. Breaker of Worlds. The Breaker of Worlds Hulk first appeared in a kind of side story within the Immortal Hulk storyline. In an alternate timeline, the Immortal Hulk becomes possessed by the One Below All, who went rampaging until the end of time, and the end of this iteration of the multiverse. He has destroyed everything, literally everything. He has defeated Franklin Richards, Galactus, all the cosmic entities, and he's shattered planets and crushed stars with his bare hands. The story itself follows an alien that had explored out trying to find out if anything was left in the universe, and there wasn't. This alien is living in the 9th cosmos, meaning the 9th version of the multiverse after the Immortal Hulk / the One Below All destroyed the last version. This new 9th multiverse is in tatters though. The One Below All Hulk has consumed the souls of every being he has destroyed, bolstering his own power enough so that he is planet-sized and just flies around like a living curse, ending all things in existence until there is nothing left. Ever. Luckily, the alien sent a warning far into the past to the present time. The Breaker of Worlds is what happens when the One Below All wins, and it's not good. Coming in at number 2 is Space Punisher Hulk. This version of the Hulk in the really awesome Space Punisher story is a 4-armed, 30-foot tall murderous monstrosity. He completely took out the Fantastic Four, he bit Sabretooth in half, took off Deadpool's head and threw him out into space, and he completely decimated a group of 6 Watchers, as in the race that Uatu the Watcher is a part of. Now if you don't know, the Watchers are sort of on par in power to Galactus, so yes, this is pretty impressive. The future space version of the Hulk is more like an exoskeleton with Bruce Banner contained within the Hulk's chest, but they are still separate entities, allowing Punisher to end the life of Bruce Banner, which in turn allows the Hulk to just jump off into space and leave everyone alone. It's intense, it's really weird, it's extremely brutal as you'd expect from a Punisher story, and we love it. And coming in at number 1 is Maestro. If we are talking about alternate future versions of the Hulk, you'd be just a big ol' silly Billy if you thought we weren't gonna talk about the evil ruler of dystopia, the possible future version of the Hulk, Maestro. Maestro is the far future ruler of a megacity that rose up after the events of a nuclear war. After being exposed to so much extra radiation, he gained extra strength and over time became more and more intelligent. He had powered up enough to be double the strength of the base Hulk and just as smart as Bruce Banner, while also becoming nefariously evil. Earth 616 Hulk ends up traveling forward in time to stop Maestro, which proves to be a much more difficult task than he initially imagined. Hulk's experience with Maestro gave Hulk nightmares of what he could become for years and years and years to come into the future.
Coming in at number 10, we have Wolverine's particularly powerful sense of smell. Wolverine has always been known for his more animalistic traits, given the whole Wolverine name, but did you know that Logan's sense of smell in particular is almost beyond compare? While all of Wolverine's senses are heightened to the degree that he's become an excellent tracker of prey over his many years as an X-Men, his sense of smell is so powerful that he was once able to deduce that Peter Parker was Spider-Man simply by randomly passing by him on a European vacation. In an even wilder example, the Ultimate Wolverine once had to track down the smell of his own legs after the Hulk had ripped him in two and threw his lower half 4 miles away from the site of their battle. Kind of a dick move, Hulk. Coming in at number 9, we have immunity to adamantium. Now, most comic fans will know that Wolverine had his skeleton entirely covered in adamantium, one of the most powerful metals on Earth by the Weapon X program. But did you know that adamantium is actually incredibly toxic? If it weren't for Wolverine's healing ability constantly fighting off the toxic effects of having this metal throughout his entire body, he likely would have died from the poisonous effects of the experiment decades ago. Anytime that Wolverine has temporarily lost or weakened his healing abilities since joining the X-Men, he's had to rely on antidote pills to ensure that his bloodstream isn't overrun by the toxic chemicals within the adamantium in his body. All of this is to say that while Wolverine's claws may be deadly, they easily could have wound up being just as deadly to him.
And at number 8, Zombie Hulk. Marvel Zombies isn't really a future story. Like, it sort of becomes one, but it isn't when it starts. Time is relative. So, look, basically, in the story, eventually the zombie Galacti, as in those zombified heroes who consumed the Silver Surfer and Galactus and gained the power cosmic, travel out into the universe and begin consuming worlds and galaxies. So much so that they consume everything until nothing is left. As you can imagine, that's the kind of thing that may take a while. Long enough to be considered the future? I shall allow you to debate below. This Hulk was a lead consumer in the team of cosmically powered zombie superheroes and villains. So much so that when they ran out of people to consume, zombie Thanos blamed Hulk for eating more than his fair share, to which zombie Hulk decided he had enough of Thanos and put him out of commission. Number 7. Lizard Hulk. In the alternate future of the Spider Island story, the whole of New York City has been taken over by a villain known as the Spider Queen. The Spider Queen has infected almost all inhabitants of the city, including all of the heroes, with a virus that turns them into mindless spider zombie-like slaves under her control. Luckily, there's a group of heroes who make a resistance to this villainous Spider Queen. Most notable among them would be Eugene Flash Thompson, or Agent Venom. Agent Venom eventually realizes that if he subjects some of these spider hybrid heroes to a different DNA tampering process, like for example the lizard serum or even the Green Goblin serum, that it will override the spider transformation, effectively curing the patients. When a group of spider heroes, including the Spider Hulk, attack Agent Venom, he injects the Spider Hulk with the lizard serum, effectively turning him into a more giant and muscular lizard Hulk. He got a tail, he got sharp teeth, he got scales, he a lizard Hulk, baby! Number 6. Intelligent Design God Hulk from What If Planet Hulk. Most comic book readers, and especially fans of Marvel and the Hulk, know of the storyline where the Illuminati banished the Hulk from Earth to send him to another planet. He ended up crash landing on Sakaar and becoming a gladiator turned liberator turned ruler of the planet until his ship self-destructed, killing his family and bringing him back to Earth with a vengeance that no guilty person was safe from. What If Planet Hulk ends up asking the question, what if the Illuminati's banishment had hit its original target? In this story, Hulk lands on an incredibly peaceful and serene planet. And sure, he goes a bit ragey at first, but he eventually realizes the planet is inhabited by a race of peaceful creatures. Over long periods of time, the Hulk helps this race to evolve and become a thriving civilization. They end up viewing the Hulk as their god, and he basically acts as one that leads them to wealth and prosperity. It's one of the few Hulk stories that doesn't end in tears, and I'm more than happy to talk about it for that reason alone. Number 5. Pappy Banner. And from happiness back to tears again. Ready to talk about Old Man Logan? Yet again? Good. Basically, in this dystopian future where the villains all banded together to take out all of the heroes, Wolverine has become a farmer, a simple man trying to just make ends meet and keep his family alive. But the main antagonist in this tale is the Hulk gang, made up of the incestuous children and grandchildren of Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk, and what he claims was his cousin Jennifer Walters, as in She-Hulk. This gang of horrible Hulks was led by none other than the one true Pappy Banner himself. Pappy Banner doesn't need to change his form to access the powers of the Hulk. In the fight between Old Man Logan and Pappy Banner, this regular human Bruce Banner was tossing cows and throwing punches that sent Logan flying. But when he did transform, he grew to a massive, overweight, maniacally twisted version of the Hulk that ate Old Man Logan whole. Well, until Logan healed up and burst out of the Hulk's stomach, so that's nice. Number 4, Hulk The End. The End series chronicles the last days of various characters in the Marvel Universe. For a lot of doomsday type stories, it often ends in the Earth being destroyed in a nuclear war. But what remains after that? Well, basically, the Hulk remains. As the only human left on planet Earth, Bruce Banner wanders the wastes in an eternal struggle with himself, as in an eternal struggle with the Hulk. Basically, Bruce has seen the deaths of all those he loved, all those he cared about. There's nothing left in this world for him, and he would prefer to just pass on. But no matter what he does, the Hulk does not let him. Speaking of the big green Goliath, he thinks Banner's will to pass away is a puny human thought, and he wants to be the strongest there is and to just be left alone. The two of them have a huge internal falling out. Eventually, Bruce has a heart attack, and while Hulk himself goes on to survive somehow, he now realizes just how alone he really is. Damn.
Coming in at number 3, we have Wolverine's infamous Hot Claws. Following a period of 5 years where Wolverine was canonically dead within the Marvel Universe, asphyxiated by an adamantium prison, it wasn't long before Wolverine was brought back from the dead because, you know, comic books. Resurrected by the mutant Persephone, who aimed to use Wolverine as a puppet, Wolverine's healing abilities allowed him to break free of her control and found his newly resurrected form with a power upgrade. His adamantium claws could now seemingly reach unlimited amounts of heat energy, overflowing with power in Wolverine's new body. These claws made Wolverine's claw attacks somehow even deadlier than before, even if they carried the side effect of limiting the rest of Wolverine's healing abilities. And while they haven't been seen in recent years after becoming a bit of a meme on the internet, who knows if Wolverine will ever be needed to use his hot claws once more. Coming in at number 2, we have Wolverine's mastery of languages. While this probably doesn't count as an actual mutant ability of Wolverine's and is more due to his overall intelligence, Wolverine's healing ability and longevity over the years have definitely helped with the fact that canonically, Wolverine knows at least 18 different languages, the result of an incredibly hectic lifetime throughout the 20th century, and showing that Wolverine is anything but just a violent brute. While knowing Japanese might be expected given Wolverine's history in the region, he also knows everything from Spanish, Italian, Vietnamese, and Russian, just to name a few. Although, honestly, now I just really want to know what the Russian translation of bub is. And finally, coming in at our top spot, we have Wolverine's Berserker Rage. For the longest time, Wolverine was seen as a fighter with a temper, and someone you definitely didn't want to fight while he was pissed off. It's eventually been revealed, however, that Wolverine's rages are actually a part of his mutant power set, allowing him to go into a full Berserker mode if he ever feels too cornered in combat. While Wolverine has been shown to despise this aspect of his powers and even seems embarrassed of his rages when they're used for good, sometimes the odds are so stacked against the X-Men that the only way out is for Wolverine to forget everything else and unleash the beast inside.